Hello, hello, hello. We're gonna just wait a little bit till people start showing up. This is gonna be a very exciting brainstorming session. Um, I'll just wait until people actually get on before I start introducing the topic and things like that. Um, are we live? We look live. Now, I think this would normally show up for my viewers on Discord. So maybe I will just share the stream. Alright, that should sufficiently bother people. Alright, unless maybe I made the stream unlisted. Did I make the stream unlisted? Let me just check. Yes, it is unlisted, that's why. Let's make it public, absolutely. Okay, and now we should be live. So people are gonna be able to see me ramble in the VOD. Oh, and now it should show up on the Discord as well. I'm just gonna wait for a couple more. Well, I'm gonna wait for anyone to show up. I don't think anyone's in here quite yet. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. So, as the title says, we are brainstorming an idea for my next game, or for the game that I've already been working on. Okay, yeah, now it showed up on Discord. Sorry guys for the double ping. I'll just tell them. Okay. But alright, so the idea, like I said, I need to make my game idea more punchy, you know? So first of all, obviously guys, we have the game jam coming up. We're not gonna talk just yet about the game jam, but I do want to kind of get some of your thoughts on it while we're doing this. Hey, welcome, welcome. Great to have both of you guys in here right now. And hopefully, I'm sure a couple more people will come in as well. So, okay, so just to get us all on the same page here. So the game that I've been working on for a little while now, I don't know how many of you guys saw the devlog that I made about the angels, the realistic angels. Let me know in the chat if you've seen that video, because I don't, like, not a whole lot of people ended up watching it. Which was surprising to me, because if I show you the thumbnail in just a second, you guys will probably think that it's quite an interesting thumbnail. Okay. I'll just let that show up on the screen in a second. In my opinion, humbly speaking, I think that's a pretty cool thumbnail. Like, I think this enemy design is pretty cool. But for whatever reason, people just didn't really get too interested in this, and the devlog ended up getting only about 1,000 views, which isn't, you know, it's much more than my devlogs used to get, so it's quite amazing in that sense, but it's not anywhere near as much as I was hoping for, because I thought, okay, this is a viral idea. So, biblically accurate angels in and of itself is not a viral idea. And just so everyone who starts coming in over time is on the same page, I'm gonna write in big letters up here, making a viral game idea. Not this. Okay, so a viral game idea consists of 3 sort of parameters. A sort of trifecta. I sort of had the great honor of chatting with the man, the legend, Thomas Brush, because I do some editing for him. Like, he noticed my Danny video, so He was kind enough to suggest that I edit a video or two of his. So if you guys watch his like Let's Play My Viewers Games video, yours truly edited that one. Can't wait to see it. Anyways, I was talking to him and he told me about this idea of like the three hooks. I think he called it the hook trilogy or the hook trinity. So this is really significant. Let me just make this bigger so that you guys can actually see this quite well. Maybe I'll just make the font bigger. Okay, so this is kind of what we're going to base our brainstorming around. Oh, honestly, I pretty much also did nothing since making that video. Well, I think I made the ChatGPT video after that, which also no one watched. But such is life with YouTube sometimes. Just people aren't interested in what you think they're interested in. And if you guys are interested in learning about how to do YouTube, if you guys are interested also in both learning about that and simultaneously supporting the channel, I made a really long video, like half an hour or something for on my Patreon, all about like YouTube strategy. So I think it's very detailed if you guys are interested in that. Anyways, I'm aware of the two Pope games that are doing very, very well. They're both simulator games, like you're the Pope and you're running the Vatican and things like that. It's like like you're planning and managing and things like that. That's not really what I want to make, but we'll put that into this whole brainstorming thing. Well, so first of all, you have like the fundamental idea, which I'll just kind of put this is like our starting point, then we're going to refine it. Maybe before I do that, though, I'll just write down what the hook trinity is. So you have the story hook, which, and the visual hook, and then of particular significance is the gameplay hook. And you guys have probably heard me talk about in my videos about why the gameplay hook is so important. I struggle with gameplay hook probably most. Like, the Pope fighting demons is a story hook. But okay, so we start with this idea. And I have 3 ideas, actually, not just the Pope game. And then that's, part of the process is also going to be I'm going to poll people. Like, I'm going to do polls on YouTube to be like, which of these do you think is cool? And like when I was talking to Thomas, he actually like, if you guys saw his polls about interesting game ideas, that was like he was showing me, like he wrote that poll and then we like predicted what was gonna be the top result, and I was wrong about what the top result would be. So I don't really have an understanding of like what makes a good idea. So having this data driven sort of backbone to it is going to be extremely important. So I'll just write these real quick. So first of all, obviously, first person, stealth horror, or action about the Pope fighting demons in the Vatican. And that right there is the story hook. And then this is technically sort of something like a gameplay hook. And then, I mean, this has a bit of a visual hook. The second idea that I had was historically accurate Robin Hood, except there's vampires. And this is also a first-person stealth horror-ish game. And then the last idea that I had is like my huge idea that's just like a stupid idea, which is first-person open-world RPG, of course. Well, semi-open world, but we're not gonna market it that way. I don't know how to describe it. The quest design of Fallout New Vegas and the world-building quality of Elder Scrolls Morrowind. Let's format this a little bit better. Okay. Where are my bullet points? There. Can I split them up? Yes, I can. Perfect. So this is our starting point. We're going to come back to these as we develop on each of them. We're going to start off with the Pope games. This is the one that I kind of have the clearest idea about, but let me get back to your chats real quick here. The Weapon Man, is it first person or third person? Most likely first person. That's just where I have experience with Air Obscure. That's what I prefer as well. I like playing first person games. All music plays. Thanks a lot. I do appreciate that. It's kind of nuts. I went from 400 subscribers to a video with 200,000 views, and that video got me monetized. And then I did the Brackies video. The tutorial video which had Brackies on it, which a lot of people were not happy that I had Brackies on the thumbnail. But it's really a great idea. I highly recommend putting people that have millions of subscribers on your thumbnails, especially if they haven't posted in a while. That's like the secret ingredient as to why those videos did so well. DHO1, yes, we are brainstorming game dev ideas. The Weapon Man, fast enemies that seem powerful for a gameplay hook. That's a great idea. It's not actually what a gameplay hook is, though. I'll explain what a gameplay hook is right in a second. GDev, you like the first idea. So the Pope idea, the Pope fighting demons in the Vatican. Peter Pan, well, that was Robin Hood and vampires, not Peter Pan and vampires. Although Peter Pan and vampires actually does sound kind of interesting. I'll show you guys something that I did. I generated some art that we're gonna use in the polls that are gonna kind of give us a good idea of. It's gonna show people like the hypothetical of what this would look like and kind of help them imagine it. So this is what it generated for the Robin Hood idea. I said this. Hold on, let me copy this properly. So it's kind of cool, right? Like it's a really cool art style. Okay, this is getting a little nuts here. Hold on a second. So it's like that grim dark. It's like Robin Hood, but it's like gritty horror. And then there was another one that I did for the Pope game, which is a little cringy, to be honest. But again, it's about it's just like a quick idea to capture the essence of what it might look like to help people to visualize it. I'm just gonna, oh my goodness, I gotta scroll through so many images. Okay, maybe we'll, okay, I found it. Almost found it. Sorry, guys. Here it is. And this isn't what the game looks like, but this is what Midjourney came up with. Oh my gosh, okay, you guys, sorry, I missed a whole bunch of these chats. The Broke Guy, you're making a game. PS1 style, okay, interesting, very fun. Rewind every time the player encounters an NPC, he'll see their past life with which you complete the game. That sounds very difficult to make. It might be an interesting hook. I'd need a little bit more context. I'd have to actually probably see what you've been up to. Dishonored is definitely a big interest of mine. I honestly haven't even played that much of it, but something about Dishonored is very interesting to me. Usually if I'm interested in a game, I'll just watch a bunch of multi-hour long analyses of the game instead of just playing it while working on other stuff. And Dishonored just fascinates me. The level design is so cool in Dishonored. The gameplay is super tight. The combat is crunchy. The magic is really cool. The stealth is a little bit lacking compared to Thief, but it's still We were kind of arguing about it in the chat on Discord a little while ago. Whether it's a complicated game. It's definitely a complicated game. Yeah, I love Dishonored. So, okay, let's talk about what a story hook is. Well, okay, so a good example is, um, well, I'll list a few, right? Like, we'll do the same thing for this. We'll do the numbered list. That'll just be a little bit easier to look at this piece of junk document. Numbered list, come on, where is it? Bullets, numbering. There. So, the Pope fighting demons. Robin Hood, but vampires. These are story hooks. These are setting. 1950s, but post-apocalypse. Who knows what that is? You guys all know what that is, obviously. I do really like, well, I like anything that's Catholic because I am Catholic. So, okay, we have that, we have this. Another example of a story hook is Thomas Brush's Pinstripe, which is a minister goes to hell, right? It's like a contrast. See, for a hook, you need some sort of contrast or some sort of surprise. It's the exact same concept as YouTube thumbnails. You need intrigue, right? You need something to make people go like, that is like very, very interesting. I've never heard of that before. Oh, DH01, don't worry. You don't need to know a whole lot about coding or anything to to understand. We're just brainstorming. We're just coming up with like a raw idea. In case you missed it, we're working with either first-person stealth horror about the Pope fighting demons, or Robin Hood, or open world RPG. We're gonna start with the Pope game. Visual hook. It's just like a beautiful art style. Think Wind Waker. Classic, unique, cell shaded. What's that game? Oh man, I forget the name. It's like you're on a ship and you're a detective or something. I forget what it's called, but like you see it when you see it. Visual hook is a little harder. It needs art direction. We won't really talk about visual hook in this stream. Gameplay hook is where the real challenge begins. A gameplay hook, to explain what a gameplay hook is, I think somebody asked that in the chat. Well, I've never had a situation where I had to actually like try to keep up with the chat, so I'm glad you guys are getting involved. I apologize if I don't get to your chat though. I'll do my best. I use Miro at work. I have not tried Milanote. Honestly, I'm like a pretty bare bones guy when it comes to this sort of thing. I like Google Docs. I really only just started using spreadsheets. Like I begrudgingly decided to like, fine, I'll try AI like 5 months later. And he calls himself a programmer. Okay, so let's see. Holy portals and demonic portals, each changing the environment. So basically a puzzle idea where everything changes on the fly depending on what portal you enter. Such as a door no longer locked, but a wall where there wasn't one previously. I kind of changed your thing there as I was going. Yeah, sure, we can list that in some of our ideas. So, and yeah, that's a good example of what a gameplay hook actually is. My favorite example, just to have an example here, is time stops when you move, which is from the game is called Superhot. Okay, So, let's see. So we're doing a first person, or well, let's just cut down to the absolute basic. Like, it doesn't have to be about the Pope. It doesn't have to be stealth horror. But yeah, like I do. There's an advantage to like playing to your strengths, right? Like we could do something that's just air obscure. You guys know my first game, which was pretty boring, right? Like you're just walking, and you're just kind of vaguely hiding. Although it's not all that involved. So we could do something. We could lean into the stealth, and I'm gonna put down your idea um, about the portals. Okay, so what did you say? You said holy portals and demonic portals that change the environment. So are you, and then we can kind of branch off. I'll number them again because that'll be easier to see. As easy as we can make a Google Doc. So questions, are you creating or closing? Right? What does the player do? Like a simple verb action that the player does. So let's define what a gameplay hook is. It is a unique gameplay mechanic that is easy to understand, which means you can describe it in a sentence. Time stops when you move, right? That's why I love that example, because it's so punchy. So it's a unique gameplay mechanic that's easy to understand, can be described as a single action the player takes. Ideally, but not necessarily. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Okay. Let me take a look at these real quick. The Pope going through the 9 circles of hell of Dante's Inferno and the Vatican as a hub. Quite possibly. Okay. How do I do this? There we go. So, traversing 9 circles of hell. And this is actually one that Thomas mentioned, right? Funny enough. So you're maybe onto something there. And what he mentioned was stealth through hell. And now we have it framed from the player's perspective. The action you're taking, right? Sneak through hell. That also allows us to have the visual hook of like the interesting enemy designs that I would like to think that I came up with. Well, I know I came up with them. I'd like to think that they're interesting. Gameplay hook is about what does the player do to progress through the game. Yeah. You could be a dragon and you burn down castles while avoiding attacks from humans. Yeah, that's a good idea. Doesn't really... There's something to that for sure. There is a game like that. What weapons is the Pope going to use to fight? Not nukes, probably, but we can actually make a note of that. Like, nuke. Use a nuke. I don't know what to do with that. What weapons is the Pope going to use? So let's think of some. Like, what is the Pope going to have weapons? One thing I thought was the Pope uses holy water. And then you have a visual hook of like you throw the holy water at the enemies and then like they start to like burn up and like I don't know, scream in pain and stuff like that. But that's maybe a visual hook, but there's problems with that mechanically. One idea that I had was like he has like a sword that becomes a flame sword when you put holy water on it, but that might be a little bit too complicated. Soma, no worries. You don't have to be 100% in the chat all the time. And good luck with your Code Academy stuff. All right. Okay, where were we? Real quick, I will say, you guys, if you're interested, I mentioned this earlier. If you're interested in, I made like a pretty long, detailed video about my sort of YouTube strategy, and that's available for my Patreons. And if you are interested in supporting the channel and getting into some really solid educational game dev content, I would really appreciate if you check that out. Obviously, completely 100% up to you. Thank you so much for being in the stream anyway. So, the Pope could say a spell to put a curse on enemies. No, popes do not cast spells, silly. I'm kidding. It's a perfectly reasonable misconception, but I wouldn't really... Like, it could be like that. Like, I was thinking one thing that you could do is, like, cleanse altars, and, like, you have to find the right Latin word in, like, books and stuff, but, like, it's not punchy enough, you know? What do you guys say we put ChatGPT to work? You know, I'm pretty cautious about ChatGPT. I made the whole video being like, ChatGPT sucks or whatever. Not quite like that, but I don't know. We might as well like see what this thing can come up with, right? How would we prompt this? Come up with, I don't know, 20 unique and highly unique gameplay mechanics involving the Pope for a first-person stealth horror game. Every mechanic has to have some sort of surprising or contrasting elements. Let's see what that does. The concept could also fit to a tower defense game, defending the Vatican. Yeah, and like there are a couple Pope games out there that are doing quite well in terms of wish lists. Karma system, changes the spells or stuff the player can do. For example, whether or not you pacify the enemy or you kill the enemy. Is that all that unique though? That reminds me of like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I kind of think that that's a bit of a weaker element to that game, because like you're constraining the player to like the abilities they choose being based on the narrative decisions that they want to make. Whereas those things, there's not a obvious reason as to why mechanically that should be connected. You know what I mean? I can't say I'm too enthusiastic about that idea. The Pope has the ability to bless certain objects, holy water purification, confessional revelation. The Pope can uncover hidden secrets and passages by listening to confessions of NPCs. That's the problem with this is that like you're gonna get ideas that I'm not too enthusiastic about, because I do want to like. I'm doing this because I'm a Catholic and I'm interested in this, and I want to. Part of the point of it is to be respectful to the office of the Pope. So I don't really want to do some of the nonsense type of stuff with this. But that's the thing, like it kind of has to be nonsense, right? Like that's the trouble with this. So maybe this isn't the idea to go with. The Pope being an AI cyborg, there's like that whole terrible video. We're not going to talk about that. Infamous, the karma system. I'm not super familiar with that. I'm not going to lie. The only like karma system that I like is that I'm aware of is Fallout New Vegas. Because that's you're just gaining favor with different factions. My goodness, I'm not happy at all about any of these ideas. It's like, Andre, why do you not like AI? Well, I like image generating AI. I think it's very useful. I don't think this is very useful though. It can be. It like maybe it's just this particular thing. But there was another idea that I had um so let's say I go with like the walking simulator Air Obscure. Um since that was kind of what I made before, like what if we just have this as our idea? Walking simulator Pope game with some stealth. Like, what's more interesting, you guys? The Pope fighting demons, or the Pope unraveling a conspiracy going on in the Vatican? Which, again, this is narrative. It's not gameplay. The Pope could be a rock star. Oh my goodness. What's that? Stranger Things. Is there going to be lore about how the enemies came and why the Pope is fighting them? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's all narrative. Like, what we're not really too interested about, like the narrative details with this. I mean, not that I like won't answer your question or whatever. I'm just the purpose of this sort of brainstorming, like the hook. The hook isn't like the player's gonna. The player needs like clickbait, let's call it, like the same principle that goes into a YouTube thumbnail. Something catches your attention, and if I tell them, but the demons came because of a secret plot and they did a ritual or whatever, like, okay, you lost me, right? Whereas if I tell you, sneak through hell or something like that, maybe that's not the hook, but it's like, I can immediately understand what you mean by that, and I can decide immediately whether I find that interesting or not. So that's why we're talking about the sort of gameplay hook, right? They'll dive into the story once they decide that they're invested, but they have to actually be convinced. Yeah, there's definitely, yeah, like, so we're definitely gonna have a lot of narrative. Like, I love story game. Like, story is the most important thing to me. It's just not the most important thing to someone looking for a new game. We can fight demons, Path of Exile or Shadow Warrior, hide from demons, Outlast. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you mean. That's not, like, if it's a matter of, like, oh, you're doing, like, the pacifist path or, like, the stealth path or the combat path, that's, like, okay, you have different various mechanics, and not just mechanics, but systems to choose from. We're missing, it's one sentence, you know? What do you mean cast angels? What does that mean? Like summon angels? So it's tough, right? Like, we don't have anything great. We don't have anything amazing. I'm gonna run this through the language model here real quick. Yeah, the thing is, GDev, is like, there's so many games that have summoning, right? Like, every RPG has summoning. And it's not that much of a contrast to think about the Pope summoning things. Like, yeah, like there's no obvious like imagery or anything like that, but there's only like, okay, ritual, liturgy, whatever. Okay, summoning. Like, it's not that like unique and intriguing, if you know what I mean. Like, not that it's not a good idea. I'm sure like it's quite possibly an idea worth pursuing, but it's not a hook. It's not a hook. And this is hard, you guys. This is the hardest part of game development. This is why 99% of games don't do well. This is why 99% of YouTube videos flop, right? Um, so generate 20. Let's give them just 10. 10 unique, highly engaging gameplay mechanics with a focus on a contrasting or surprising element to a narrative-driven stealth horror walking simulator Pope game about the Pope. Let's see if it helps us out with that. Transform. Yeah, it's tough, you guys. By the way, are any of you not enrolled in the game jam yet? I'm just gonna, while this thing generates, I'm gonna send a link to the game jam. The game jam starts tomorrow. Tomorrow? No, Friday. That was close. And I'm gonna be doing a theme announcement. It's gonna be like a different theme from any game jam that I've ever seen personally. Maybe there are some out there like this, but it's basically gonna let you do something really really cool, which is not I'm not selling it very well, but it's gonna be great, and there's no pressure to like use all the time. You can only like if you have like only an evening, like on Saturday evening or something like that. Like do what you can. Even if you don't submit a game, it would be really cool if you guys joined anyway, just to at least vote afterwards and see what people came up with, and that'll help you get some inspiration for what you could maybe incorporate or what you could try making in the future. Okay, so Sanctified Serenity. These are like none of these are punchy. Like these are like why is it? This isn't an action. This is like a vibe or something. I don't know. As the player walks through eerie environments, they can encounter pockets of tranquil serenity. That was kind of already what I was gonna do. That's not a hook. That's not a mechanic even. Divine Whispers. The player can uncover hidden messages and clues scattered throughout. Yeah. These whispers can attract attention. Yeah, maybe something there, but it's not a hook. Sinful Secrets. This was like it gave me this idea already. Okay, so you can. But why would the Pope like if the Pope is trying to uncover a conspiracy, then like why would he just be able to like pick up on secrets like that? Iconic protection. The player can find and collect religious icons that provide temporary protection. I mean, like, it's not. None of these are punchy. Holy Veil. Like, okay. Papal infallibility. That could be interesting. The player has the power to foresee brief glimpses to the future. That's not what papal infallibility is. This is why we have Protestants. Not, no, I'm sure ChatGPT didn't persuade people to become Protestant. But yeah, it's interesting. I do want the Pope to like. I want the Pope to like. Well, I mean, I don't know. This idea might be like stripped down like a lot more than we think. I don't know. Some of these just don't sound interesting at all. Soma, yeah, absolutely. You should totally join. And like I said, like even if you're not gonna make a game, just like vote afterwards, right? You can still vote. What are my boundaries when it comes to this theme? Oh, you'll see. Or wait, hold on. Do you mean the theme for the game jam or the theme like for this game? For the game jam, there's gonna be an announcement video on Friday. So keep an eye on that. But I can't tell you too much about that just yet. But you can't make well you can if you really want to, but you're not going to get any theme points. You can make a I strongly discourage making a 2D platformer or a top-down shooter. This could be interesting, but this is like that could actually be quite like an emotional sort of thing, like haunting hymns, like you have to discover like beautiful music, like that sort of thing resonates with people. Like the Outer Wilds has another gameplay hook, which is basically people just telling you that they can't tell you anything about the game or else they'll ruin it. But the time loop, obviously, spoiler alert or whatever. Um, but there's also the aspect of finding the music that your fellow astronauts are making. So there might be something to this, but to me it seems more like a narrative thing anyway. Mirrors, what the heck is this? This is nonsense. Okay, let me read your chats real quick. Death Stranding, but you deliver relics to holy sites. I mean, Death Stranding doesn't have a good hook. Well, I guess Death Stranding's hook is realistic walking. Okay, but okay, that's not what I mean by walking simulator though. I mean like, where are those other games? Like, Firewatch is a good example. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, please leave a like. It would be wonderful. Bring balance to the realm by purifying shrines with holy water. Well, that's sort of part of the idea, right? Like, yeah, like I'm stumped too, man. Like, it's a tough idea. It's a tough thing to make a hook for. I3D devlogs. You're not liking the idea of playing as a pope because you'd be like an old man, but you want to feel like a hero, and that I get that. That's another part of it, right? Like, but like if you look at this, like the idea of like Doom Guy Pope, right? Like, well, that's potentially like something sort of hook like. So I think the best like there's Doom Guy Pope, right? Like the Pope, but he's Doom Guy. That's a good way of doing it. The X but Y format is pretty much like the format for creating a hook. So to be honest, guys, the ones that stick out to me are this, which isn't at all what I'm making right now, and this, which is slightly what I'm making right now, but you're in the Vatican, not in hell. Oh, bodybuilder. Okay, so let's put this aside, I guess. I'm gonna run some stuff by like YouTube polls and like probably like do a bunch of polls all over the place and try to narrow this down. Can you, Soma, remind me what your first and second idea were? You guys have quite a few comments there for me to keep track of, which is awesome. Like that's never happened to me in a live stream before, so that's great. The Pope can call reinforcements from heaven. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you know what? I should note these ideas down, like because it's not like it. I can't just be like, oh, it's not a hook. Like we're all in the same boat here, and these can all be these are all data metrics, right? Like, so the Pope, no, don't be yellow, just be normal text. The Pope can, or like, this is a hook, so summon angels to help you fight. So where's the X but Y, right? If a hook is in the format of X but Y, what is the X but Y of summoning? Summon angels to help you fight. Summon angels, but they, I don't know. The first idea and second idea you have on the Word document, obviously the portals would already be placed down in certain areas. These two, like this is kind of one thing. So holy portals and demonic portals that change the environment. Okay, so let's call this horror stealth game, but the environment changes because of hell portals. So this is how you frame it, right? Like X but Y, X but Y. Think about it that way. Think about it that way when you're making your own game, you know, X but Y. That's how you generate contrast. That's how you put yourself into the mind frame, right? Um, and this, in fact, this is a narrative hook, right? The Pope, but he uses nukes. And the reason why this is sort of like, or more like Doom Guy, but he's the Pope. And the reason why that is kind of a little bit more of a gameplay hook is because you imagine, okay, you know what Doom Guy does, right? He punches, like, it's super crunchy. He punches demons. He shoots them. He's like, I don't know a whole lot about Doom. But he's the Pope, which that kind of like changes that imagery. Like, it's a clear contrast. Oh my goodness. Does it have to be stealth? No, it absolutely does not have to be stealth, because we're just brainstorming, right? Like the Doom Guy idea is definitely not stealth. So maybe animals can have an animal pope and the demons are human. And I don't like that. Sorry. I don't like stuff where like, oh, humans were the monsters the whole time. Or I don't know. It's kind of, it's never quite satisfying to me as a concept. That's probably not where you were going with that, but that's where my mind jumped to. Buff boxing Pope going around super punching demons in hell. Like Pontypants' game, eh? Boxing game, but it's in hell. I think it'll have to come down to like, I'm doing this, and then like, you're the Pope, but you fight demons in the Vatican. Oh my goodness, the Pope is a train. That's amazing. The Pope with the puffer jacket. Okay, yes, this the. Yeah. Oh, by the way, welcome, Arya. Good to see you. Good to see you. I hope you're still crushing it with the devlogs. But yeah, I'll admit I haven't seen your stuff in a while. Matt is here. Excellent. Welcome. What if instead of traveling through portals into hell, what if from a Christian idea, the idea of Christ knocking at the door of your heart, only you can let him in? Lockpick your way into the heart of corrupt clergy. Okay, interesting. Like Inception. That is quite interesting. How can we frame that? I guess, Matt, I don't know if you were here for the earlier parts, but like, we kind of went over like, so a gameplay hook is like X but Y. So like, Doom Guy but he's the Pope. Or time stops when you move. Or horror stealth game, but the environment changes because of hell portals. So it's fairly easy to understand. It can kind of be described as a single player action, if that makes sense. But okay, I'll see how we can kind of parse this out a little bit into something. So the Pope, so we kind of set aside the idea of the Pope for the particular concept, just to focus on. So you're lockpicking thief simulator, but you're you're breaking into people's minds, basically, right? That would be the X but Y. Dude, how could I not remember the guy who made Elon Musk, but he's along? The mechanic is incepting the turmoil heart of the possessed. I like that. Actually, Matt, I don't know if I ever told you about this, but I think maybe I did tell you about this. This would have been like early days. I had an idea about like I think you would probably remember, like, I was working on like the Dream Thief idea way back when. And one idea I had was like the player goes into like people's minds and stuff like that. So I think we have 3 solid hooks here that I can then run with this and put this in like a YouTube poll. Um, so I think that this is a good basis. This is kind of like a place where we can start. And notice, guys, how we didn't in a lot of these we didn't really care about like the Pope aspect of it, right? Um, like I like this one actually as well. I'm gonna put this one on the list because I like this one. Because it's pretty well phrased, right? Like horror stealth game, but the environment changes because of hell portals. And then I can phrase that a little bit better somehow. But you get the idea. Like thief simulator, but you're breaking into people's minds. But it turns out that's the gameplay hook, and then the narrative hook is it's the Pope, right? And the other narrative and visual hook is like, okay, but you're also finding out if they're possessed and how that looks like inside their minds and stuff like that. That's awesome. I kind of want to make that, to be honest. I hope this one wins. I'll be honest, guys. I don't want to make this one, but I suspect because of the concept of like Doom Guy being in it, that's what people are going to be more interested in. That's what's going to win the votes. What's Psychonauts? Is that what I like? Is that you go into people's dreams? Is that already a thing? I haven't heard of this. I'll make a note of it so I look this up later. And I don't know if that's part of what you're saying here. Let's take a look right now at what that is actually. I have it on another tab here. I'll just check real quick. Psychonauts on Steam. Okay, we'll bring this up here. Through the mines. Okay, yeah, so you go into mines. Wow, I've never heard of this. Wow, this game did really well. It's got 10,000 reviews. That's crazy. It doesn't look that good. Okay, 2005. So this is like a long running classic then, isn't it? I'm guessing this was not originally a Steam game. Was this originally this classic? Yeah. Classic action adventure platformer from acclaimed developers. Gotcha. And yeah, it's good that you brought this up to me, though. I'll have to check this out and become somewhat aware of what this is. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying here. This is not a pitch document. This is just brainstorming. There's no official name. It's just brainstorming, figuring out the narrowing down the hook trinity, as Thomas Brush calls it: the story hook, the visual hook, and the gameplay hook. Completely informal, just completely off the cuff and seeing what we come up with. Psychonauts 2 as well. I gotta look into this. So this is maybe already a thing, except it's a platformer, so it's not like a lock-picking thief simulator, right? Like what we're talking about here is almost more like this game. I'll admit I don't know anything about this game. Right, but it's thief simulator, right? It's simulation, stealth, crime. I don't know why the images aren't loading. The player could time travel, oh my goodness, but every time you do, the situation gets a little bit worse. I recently watched Primer again. It's such a good movie. Oh, why do we have sound? We don't want sound. But yeah, it would be something like this, except is it even possible to make like breaking into people's minds visually obvious in any way? I'm not sure. But this would maybe be something to run with. Like the ideal situation here, guys, is for me to basically make Arab Scare, but make it actually good, because then I'm reusing a lot of the code and whatever from that. But okay, we'll set this aside for now, and then we'll move on to the next one. For anyone who's able to stay. So, what do you guys think about this, by the way? Do you guys think that this is in any way interesting? Basically, open world RPG. And I'm not saying I'm going to make this because this is like a massive game, but quest design of Fallout New Vegas, and then the world building of something like Elder Scrolls 3. So it's like a detailed fantasy world with like the level of narrative choice of Fallout New Vegas. But okay, let's get into this Robin Hood idea. So the first thing we'll do is we're gonna pass this through ChatGPT real quick. So generate 10 unique, highly engaging gameplay mechanics with a focus on a contrasting or surprising element to a stealth game about Robin Hood. Is there portals in Titanfall? I legitimately don't know anything about Titanfall. um, Other than like you have a mech and whatever, which is pretty surface level understanding, I know. Yeah, the idea is great. Although, yeah, I agree. Lots of crazy amount of work. Noble stealth. Robin Hood can infiltrate the lavish estates of corrupt nobles. That's not a hook. Arrow whistle. That might be a hook. Robin Hood can use a specially crafted arrow to create a whistling sound, distracting guards and luring them. What does that have to do with an arrow? However, the unexpected sound may also attract the attention of other enemies. This is so, like, schizophrenic. This is why I hate AI. Merry Band Distraction. Okay, so it's like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You can, like, there's, like, your summoning idea again there. And then, again, there's no X but Y, right? So for Robin Hood... let's get the numbered list in here again. What do we call this? So X but Y, stealth game, but you summon help. We're gonna run through this real quick and oh, what is this now? What is going on? Sorry, I'm getting sound. Okay, there we go. Merry Band Distraction, and it reminds me of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood as well. Tax collector impersonation. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's basically a stealth game, but you have disguises, which is already Hitman, so that doesn't work because it's not unique. However, being mistaken for one of the oppressors poses a moral dilemma. Yeah, that could actually be potentially interesting, but also a social aspect, and then that can be potentially refined. I don't know, so it's like something like that, like not in whatever clearer, more interesting terms we can come up with for that. Forest camouflage, sure. Certain, like I mean that's just using the woodland to stealth. Wealth redistribution. Oh my goodness. No, don't be cringe, ChatGPT. Steal from the rich and distribute stolen wealth to the poor. However, indiscriminate theft and excessive generosity may disrupt the balance of power. Yeah, maybe there's something to that. Rob the rich and feed the poor. That could lead to different endings. But okay, so it's narrative hook, so it's not gameplay hook, so we don't even care about that. Archery, I think archery is kind of where it lies. But Thief, the quintessential stealth game already is about archery, which is why I'm like, there is nothing here, the hook already happened, and it wasn't a Robin Hood game. Precise shots and silent takedowns. However, each shot fire generates noise and attracts attention. That's so lame. Charity versus stealth. Moral choices. Outlaw hideouts. We're not gonna do a big open world like that for that to be even remotely feasible. Merry Band collaborative actions. Guys, I hate it. Robin Hood sniper game. Sure, let's write down, like, whatever, as many ideas. The merry band is going to get eaten by the vampires. At least in the Air Force, exactly, they'll be able to make steaks. So I don't know. Apparently, like, I know there's like a Vampire Survivors thing that's popular. I don't know anything about it, but like, what about like open world survival craft, but vampires? Robin Hood tries to steal a mansion, but it happens to be owned by a powerful vampire family. Robin Hood tries to steal a mansion? Wait a second, what do you mean? He tries to steal a mansion. Trying to get out of the mansion. Yeah, it's pretty, that's pretty much like the, like just like like you just did a story hook right there, which is, good. Um, but the gameplay described is just a stealth game, right? Like there's no like you have the X, which is sneak through a mansion and steal things, but there's no but why. You know what I mean? You have the X, but no but why, which is the hard part. Archery, but either blessed arrows dipped in holy water or other kinds of poisons, blessings for extra damage. Stealth archery game, but you can enchant arrows. Moral of the story, don't use AI for gameplay hooks. Well, I mean, there's nothing, it doesn't cost me anything, I just throw it a prompt and I might as well kind of bounce off of it, right? But yeah, absolutely, like AI is only gonna take you so far. Okay. If it's vampires, then using light as a mechanic seems like a tool that would be needed to blind or distract them. That's a very good point. You're absolutely right. And light, if you're in light, you can be seen, but you need light to hinder enemies, right? So, stealth game where where light makes you easier to see, but you need light to incapacitate vampiric enemies. Matt, I am glad you joined the stream, man. Thank you. But okay, so no, we're not doing Vampire Pope. Well, maybe we could do Vampire Pope. We can just combine the two. And I honestly, guys, I love the visual that it came up with. Like, this is kind of weird. Like I actually don't like the Pope one that it came up with, but I really like the art style that it came up with. Even though it's not at all clear that this is Robin Hood or even clear that it's a vampire, but it's quite an interesting sort of one. And when I do these polls, one of them is going to be like, which art style do you find the most interesting for this game concept? And so that's how you use an audience to crack down data. So if you use light, then it's bright and you reveal yourself, but in dark you are hidden to humans but easier to be hunted by the vampires. I think you'd be just like I think it would just be that the vampires will just see you regardless. We can figure out the details if we determine that that's the idea that we want to go with. Vampire Pope is unsure of which road to go down, unholy or holy. What about the Pope as a samurai? Yeah, maybe. Or Peter Pan as a samurai. It's Robin Hood, not Peter Pan. That's the second time that. How dare you? No, I'm kidding. It's totally fine. But he's a samurai. I mean, this is narrative, right? This is pretty like strictly narrative hook. Right, like games where it's like, okay, you're a samurai. I mean, the gameplay hook of that is like fun, crunchy combat usually. Okay, I'm gonna put down your idea about the Pope is a samurai, and this is also a narrative hook. But that's fine. We're seeing what we can come up with here. Right? Okay, let's real quick refine some of these. Using the X but Y format, right? Stealth game, but you summon help. Um, that's already kind of as is. Stealth game, but you have disguises. Stealth game, but your disguises have consequences. I think stealth game, but you have disguises is really all we can do for that, because like I'd have to say like I don't know, like in Hitman, do you have like I mean like it's kind of implied in the very concept of having a disguise that people will treat you one way, and then people that think you're on their team will treat you another way, right? So I don't think I need to um I don't think the caveat that the but why is there, like this is literally just Hitman, so we're not probably not gonna go with that. Rob the rich and feed the poor, but that leads to different endings. I don't know how to like this is a narrative. This is just a narrative hook. Nothing more. It's not a gameplay hook. Robin Hood sniper game. So what's the X but Y? This is archery sniper game, right? Forget we're taking out the Robin Hood aspect from the X but Y idea. Archery sniper game, but what? We'll get back to that. Open world survival craft, but vampires. That's not a hook because again, this is just a story hook. Because like there are so many open world survival craft games that have vampires, that have like dark creatures, like even Minecraft has zombies, and then like the forest has like cultists. So this is not at all unique. So I'll just say not unique. And I'll even strike through. Sorry. I forget if this was an AI idea or if this was a viewer idea, but we gotta strike these through. Can I strike through anything here? This is just one that, like, honestly, I just don't want to do, and this is kind of a narrative hook as well. And I think you're just kind of joking anyway there, but okay, whatever, you guys get the idea. Stealth archery game, but you can enchant arrows. This is just Skyrim. Right, like, I think someone even mentioned, like, this is just Skyrim. So, also not unique. And also, dare I say, also Thief. So I'll just say... Stealth game where light makes you easier to see, but you need light to incapacitate vampiric enemies. This is probably the best one so far. And these two ChatGPT ones are actually okay. This one's a narrative hook as well. Okay, you guys are busy in the chat here. Let me catch up. Oh, hello, David. Welcome. So we're just doing like the trifecta of hooks. I keep calling it something different. Thomas calls it the holy trinity of hooks. So we're just brainstorming a game idea, coming up with a story hook, visual hook, and gameplay hook. But we're focusing on gameplay hook because that's the hard part, and like I already kind of have ideas for stories, and we're kind of learning about what a hook is in the meantime. Robin returns from the crusade. Your land is stolen from the false king. You seek revenge to restore the rightful king and law, but you have to make a deal with evil, and you are the vampire. Oh my goodness, it's like wasn't that like the Dracula movie? Just the last part of that. I know like the beginning part probably isn't like that, but that's potentially quite interesting. You are the one who knocks. You are the horror. That's very interesting. That is so interesting. That's a hook already. Like Matt, dude, like you're on a roll here. Okay, what am I doing? A horror game, but you are the horror, and I'm sure I'm sure that already exists, but that could be interesting. Maybe the world is under natural disaster like hurricane, earthquakes, levels difficult to traverse because of wind and earth moving. That's interesting. I don't know what that would be interesting before. Like, I don't know what the genre of that is. That is interesting though. Ever changing. And I don't like. Although I said okay, remove Robin Hood. Like, we're still thinking about it from that framework. But I'm not sure how to frame that in the framework of Robin Hood. But it is an interesting idea. In Hitman, certain people can only spot you while others are oblivious that you ain't supposed to be there. Oh, you said Skyrim for something else, okay. But it applies to... Yeah, like, it is bare bones, but I mean, no one's gonna, like, that in and of itself. Like, I can't just be like, it's Skyrim's enchantment system, but not bare bones. You know what I mean? Like, unless I go like the full immersive sim route, and I'm like, your fire arrows will burn down wood, your ice arrows will freeze the walls, and all sorts of crazy stuff like that, which I can't. That's, I mean, like, it's not a bad idea. So let's uncross that out. Okay, I'll put both of these two under the Robin Hood. I'll just put this one because honestly I don't know what to do with the ever-changing environment one, quite honestly. Not that it's not a good, like, it is a good idea. I just don't know what to incorporate it into. Horror game, but you are the horror. And what did we just say? So arrow enchanting, let's polish this up a little bit. Stealth archery, so... So enchanted arrows, or so stealth archery, but your enchanted arrows alter the environment. That would be awesome. That's an enormous game that I tried to make an immersive sim, but it ended up just being a walking simulator. Getting super stripped down. That's what Arab Skirt eventually became. The Pope, but he's the one who knocks. That's great. Yeah, David, I agree. Immersive sim definitely not realistic for indies. Sorry, you know what? I will correct myself because there is definitely a market for it. It's just not financially viable. It's just so hard to make a good immersive sim. And you have to just have the pure passion for it. So we have something like, I'll highlight this. I'll highlight these. Although, like, this I already know isn't unique. Like, this is just Hitman. And I like this a lot too. This is great. And I'll have to check because, like, I feel like I'm almost certain that there's games like that. And I'm actually really not quite sure about this, but I'll throw it on the poll anyway because sometimes, like, what Thomas was kind of telling me that when I was mentioning earlier was you kind of end up being surprised often where, like, in which direction the poll goes. Yeah, and I can't figure out what to do for archery sniper game, but that doesn't even sound all that interesting anyway. So I think we have our hooks for the Robin Hood game. Yeah, I'm gonna post a lot of polls pretty soon. I think we have a couple new people in the chat. If you guys haven't liked the stream yet, I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like. If you're enjoying this, if you're finding this helpful. And yeah, we're gonna maybe talk a little bit about this one now. Not a whole lot though, just because I know it's not feasible. And if you guys are so inclined, I would immensely appreciate if you checked out the Patreon. There's a lot of educational resources out there. I recently made a 30-minute super in-depth video about the strategy I use for YouTube, how what I used to get 200,000 views on 2 videos. even with only 400 subscribers at the time when my first video blew up. So I think that you guys will get a lot of value out of that if you so choose. Robin Hood game but inspired by Dark Souls. Real. Do I normally live? Do I normally go live? I sometimes go live. I'm not sure if that's what you meant. I hope I answered your question correctly there. Real-time strategy, but you are leading the Robin Hood revolution. So, again, this is the narrative hook, right? Like it's a fine narrative hook, but it's not a gameplay hook. Robin Hood game, but inspired by Dark Souls. So now we throw the Robin Hood onto the Dark Souls, right? Like, what if we say Dark Souls, but it's stealth? And I actually do quite like that as a hook. And it would obviously be like way simpler than Dark Souls. It would be like some sort of basic combat, but like really difficult stealth where you're like you have to hide from bosses, but the bosses would have like, it wouldn't just be like they would be stealth catered bosses. So they would probably have like different things where they'd like, I don't know, they'd grow a bunch of eyes and suddenly they can look in all directions, or I don't know, something silly like that. Real-time strategy isn't a narrative, but saying it's real-time, like the gameplay is real-time strategy, but then the narrative hook is Robin Hood, right? You painted, all you did was paint a real-time strategy with the paint of Robin Hood, right? Like, so when we talk about X but Y, let's do some math here, where X and Y not narrative or setting elements. There, math. If you didn't meet the boss earlier in the game disguised as their mom, you won't be able to stealth past the boss. What a concept. So let's leave the Robin Hood idea aside real quick, and let's do open world RPG just for the fun of it. And again, we'll start off with shooting something at ChatGPT. Generate 10 unique, highly engaging gameplay mechanics with a focus on contrasting or surprising elements. Each mechanic needs to be described as a single action that a player can take. This would be like the gameplay hook of Skyrim. Like, there's a million mechanics in Skyrim, but obviously the gameplay hook was Fusroda, right? The gameplay hook was Fusroda, and you fight dragons. And fighting dragons is a narrative hook, but it's also a mechanical hook, just because of I don't know. I guess it's an interesting boss fight or something. I don't know. Maybe that's more of a narrative hook. So each mechanic needs to be described as a single action that a player can take. Sorry. I hope that wasn't too loud. Man, I need some more water. But we'll just do this one, and we'll probably wrap up, and I'll just grab water when we wrap up. So, unique gameplay hooks, I'll just put it here. Elements for a open world RPG game. Inspired by Elder Scrolls Morrowind. So it kind of, I hope that will kind of help it understand that it's like a sort of like classic vibe. And we have some fairly interesting stuff here, actually, come to think of it. Memory manipulation. If that was like, your core gameplay, kind of like how Fusroda was in all the Skyrim trailers, you show like some sort of like you really amp up like the psychic school of magic, basically. Elemental fusion, so this is like a magic thing. Soul theft. The player has the ability to temporarily steal the souls of defeated enemies. Harnessing their unique abilities for a limited time. That sounds like a game that already exists, and it might be Skyrim. Forbidden knowledge. The player can uncover and study ancient forbidden tomes. See, I love that idea, and I would definitely incorporate that into a game. Like I would have like I love the idea of like skill checks that are like knowledge based, right? And like you're trying to like read books because like there should be a lot more like fantasy RPGs need more they need more of a need for the player to learn about the world. Like Morrowind literally had that. Morrowind literally had like here's a book, here's a whole entire book about like this faction's perspective versus like these people thinking they're heretics and things like that. Like, and that's like that's optional if you want to read that. But then why shouldn't it be like, okay, I'm a mage, so I'm not gonna like go dungeon diving. I'm gonna go and try to find knowledge, right? So that interests me quite a bit. Ethereal projection, yeah, like these are all actually quite interesting. So maybe RPGs just offer more possibility to, how do you put it? They offer more of a playground that you can generate ideas. Like most things that you generate will kind of fit depending on what game you want to do. Okay, so um, where were we? You're doubling down on the mansion idea. That's fine, but you're just describing every stealth game ever, right? Like the fact that it's a mansion versus a palace versus a castle doesn't mean anything, right? Like it doesn't mean anything for the gameplay. You're still doing the same gameplay loop. Looking through log holes, I mean Thief the fourth, however Thief 4 did that, right? And actually, did Thief 1 do that? Like, did the old classic Thief do that? That's a common mechanic, right? Like, it's not a hook. But that being said, it's a great idea. Like, those games were phenomenally successful, but they're not unique anymore. Open world RPG, but the world is a sewage system and the weapons oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's funny. Can you survive off of game dev, or do you have to have another job? Me personally, I have another job. I have not succeeded in game dev yet to the point where I can do that. And on my Patreon, I actually have an article that I'm like really proud of that kind of outlines what I think the different steps for people are and what people should be aiming for as their goal. And the first of that is basically where I'm at right now because I'm really truly just getting started with game development, even though I feel like I've been doing it forever. Which is that first phase of like you release your first game and then you can use it to like as like a vehicle for marketing, and you have some way of making like a side hustle type of money, whether that's a Patreon, whether that's doing assets, whether like for me it's YouTube, and then doing editing and stuff like that for people, or well for one client so far. Yeah, stealth game like that's you maybe found a hook there with like a stealth game, but it's isometric. Matt, would a gameplay hook be during the day, being able to have your soul travel from graveyard to graveyard, taking over corpses of those unjustly killed by a sheriff who wanted to steal their land? Part of that would be. So how to phrase that as a gameplay hook? Let's do it just for fun, for the sake of practice. So, this is already fairly unique, so I'm not sure there's like an X but Y situation here, but like um possess corpses to enact revenge on their behalf, which is like mostly a narrative hook. Actually, yeah, I think that is a little bit more of a narrative hook than a gameplay hook. But yeah. For Soma, for your idea, I don't think stinky sewage. Okay, more green sludge sewage. Yeah, like a very over the top sort of thing. That yeah. Are there colleges or degrees made specifically for game dev? Yeah, there are. You're better off just like making small games. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Like, I mean, I'm sure a game dev college degree is. You're certainly gonna learn quite a bit from doing such a thing. You're definitely gonna make connections. That's probably the most valuable part of it. Um, Working with people who are all interested in the same thing and just having people to get feedback off of, you're guaranteed to learn an immense amount from doing game dev college. But like, you could also just you could participate in game jams, which I'm gonna shill the game jam real quick, guys. Go join the game jam. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be on Friday. It's gonna be tons of fun. It's gonna go from Friday to Monday. You don't have to use the entirety of the time. But what I'm getting at with that is make small games, and if you if you if you make enough small games, you're gonna learn both what you can make, and I talk about this in my videos, what people react to, how much time you need to implement certain things, how to slowly expand and slowly build and slowly find your forte, right? Because you need data to find out your forte, and to have data, you need lots of games released. So you just have to make a bunch of small stuff that you're not attached to. And yeah, I did a bit of that, but I could have done more. But I think, guys, that this is probably just about a good time to wrap this up. And just before we do that, guys, I will also I'll link the game jam, and I'm also gonna link the Patreon, just because I do tremendously appreciate the support of those of you who would wish to support me. And you'll get tons of really good, in my opinion, really, like, I work quite hard on them. I think they're quite good, quite well detailed educational material about game development. And also, thank you immensely for joining in. This was probably the best live stream that we ever did. Super fun, tons of fun. Leave a like if you enjoyed. That'll also hopefully help the VOD. Maybe more people can watch this later and learn something off of it. And I don't know, I don't think there's anything else. I guess that's it. So yeah, thanks guys so much for watching and hanging out, and God bless. We'll end the stream.